This is the Realty Classroom Podcast, episode number 108. 5 simple steps to a real attainable financial goal. Are you a real estate agent with an entrepreneurial spirit who wants to turn your job into a business without sacrificing your lifestyle, but you just can't seem to find the right plan to help you get there? Well, then, hey, you're definitely in the right place. I'm Danny Griffin, the founder of the Realty Classroom and the host of this podcast. Now, to help you take immediate action to get started in the right direction if you're new, or a better direction if you're a veteran like me, I've created a free jumpstart course for you over at freeagentgift.com. Always waiting for you. Nice digital course with a downloadable over there to get you strategic. That's the key word here at the Realty Classroom. All right, let's get started. 5 simple steps to a real attainable financial goal. What do I mean? Well, whether it's somebody new, and I see this at my brokerage all the time as new people come into the business, or veterans like my private mastermind coaching group, there's really a lack of a clear financial goal that we're trying to adhere to on a regular basis. So it strikes me that it really merits its own discussion, and it's something that we shouldn't just do once a year. I think that's part of the problem, right? We have this perception that financial goal setting is a thing that maybe if we're really smart, we do it a little bit before the end of the year. But even so, maybe that January, February moment, then gone, right? Then it's gone. Well, that's ridiculous. We are small businesses that need to act smarter, and we need to act like big businesses. And I have some experience from way back when tracking big businesses that were public companies, and they always were talking about their financial goals day to day, week to week, and especially quarter to quarter as they are required to report, and yearly 10Qs, 10Ks, special reports called 8Ks. All of this reporting was around financial goals. And were we reaching them or were we not? That was really what it was all about. So you look at it and you say, I know, but all those big companies, they have a lot of great accountants and they have a good financial staff and a chief financial officer. I'm just too busy. I'm just trying to sell houses. Stop. Slow down. And especially if you're brand new, you have such a great opportunity to get started in the right direction. I say it every time at the opening of every one of these podcast episodes. If you're looking to get started in the right direction or moving in a better one for all my veterans, this is the moment. This is the one thing. And I'm going to fit it into a tiny little podcast episode of about plus or minus 20 minutes. And if you do it, you will be shocked over the longer run, if you adhere to it, how powerful this exercise is. It is giving me, after 20 years of doing it, the confidence in my own book of business, as well as helping my agents get real, like very strict lines to stay within, to reach these goals, to make it predictable, to make it sustainable. And especially as I'm recording this, we're in the middle of some real challenging times. And the idea is, see, here we go again. The shadow has come. How strict have we been? How disciplined is a better word have we been in adhering to staying within what matters to reach financial goals so that we don't get whipsawed around by the circumstances? So here we go. Step number one is to have a written gross commission goal. A written gross commission goal. Now, I'll give you a caveat before we go here. I don't really, well, it's not even a caveat. It's just it's a pathway you can choose. If you write this down on a pad of paper, I mean, literally, like, look, if you're watching this online, I have a pad of paper always near me, a legal pad. And I just wrote it there as I was just thinking about it before doing the podcast. I wrote this there. It's that stupid simple. 5 thin lines on a legal pad. But the first one is write a gross commission goal. So let me help you, because the example that I'm going to give you today is going to seem really, really big for a lot of you. I know that just based on the average number of sales that an average realtor does, at least in the United States, and probably a little bit higher in Canada. So when you look at that, you say, okay, you know that most realtors are somewhere around 3 to 4 transactions a year. You know that that average sale is somewhere around the 220 range or whatever, it varies. But you start to see like, okay, look, I know that most of you aren't even remotely close to the example I'm going to use, but I want you to set a bigger goal so that you can see the building blocks that get there. Now, of course, if you're a top producer, the number I'll give you today, you've already blown through that. However, think of it as a chunk, okay? How do I block out that one chunk? So the number that I'm going to use is 100,000. See, a lot of you just fell off like, oh my gosh, I'd just love to do 40 instead of keep doing 25. And other people just said, I'm looking to do my 3rd million. Okay, I got it. It's a building block. It's a financial building block. Some of you will be stretching towards it. Some of you will be looking to just redefine that block of 100. But let's take it. It's a nice round number. And the idea that the 2 paths that I was talking about is you can write it down on a legal pad, or I prefer mind mapping. I love mind mapping. I don't know why all of a sudden I fell in love with it. It's a memorialized plan that can always be changed and is growing. That's why I like it. It's digital. So it can be printed out. And is it written, quote unquote? Not really, but it's typed in there and it's there. I suggest a backup printout, of course. But I'll take, in this episode, either from you. If you see this, if you hear this, I will take either, because it is the act of doing it. I say this all the time. Getting it out of your head, through your arm, and onto a piece of paper or typed into a mind map. There is something amazingly powerful about that act. You are memorializing, right? You are memorializing that number. It's out of you now. It's there. And there's something about a goal that gets out of you and memorialized that becomes way more powerful. And it really begins to draw you towards it. And it really begins to call upon the resources that you need. So a written gross commission goal, start with a block of 100,000. All of you, please humor me. I'm here for you. Trust me. If you listen to me even for 3 minutes, you're already trusting me. I do this myself. I know exactly what mine is. In fact, on the computer in front of me while I'm recording this, it's up there in my mind map. By the way, I recommend xmind.net, their free version of Xmind 8. Not Xmind Zen, they're Xmind 8. I like it better. It's free, and I have all my clients having a copy of this on their laptop so that they have it, okay? Gross commission goal, and we started with 100,000. The next, step number 2, is you need to discover the real median, which is also for all you math whizzes from the 5th grade, the middle number. You need to know the median or middle price in your target market. So a quick little helper here, if you're new, if you're looking for a target market, first of all, go for the one you really want. Don't go over to one because you think it's going to be easier. Nothing's easy, okay? So go try to be successful in the market area that you want to be. Now, it's best if you join an office that's in that target market or you live there. I'll just tell you that right now. Fishing off the dock, quote unquote, makes you much more effective in the long run, especially when it comes to the attainment of listings. But your first act is to go into MLS, the multiple listing service, yes, our marketplace, and determine over the last year. You can take a calendar year. So whatever year you're listening to this in, you go back and look at the previous year and you say, what was the middle price? Now, most of these MLSs have the ability to give you the middle number. Now, why the middle versus the mean? I'll show you in my marketplace. It's very interesting. I have 2 marketplaces, by the way, Boston downtown and Cape Cod generally, okay, but more the middle of the Cape. If I were to go and look at my middle price, it has been fluctuating over the last several years from $390 to about 15-ish, right? And I like crooked numbers, by the way. If it's 4, 12, 5, that's the middle number. But if you look at what happens, and again, you can Google map Cape Cod so you have a reference for my real marketplace. By the way, the wink, wink, I do this every day. This isn't a theoretical podcast. This is what I do. I teach it too, but I'm probably one of the few that actually has to grind this out every day. Not has to, I want to. And I want to teach you what I learn along the way. And that is that if you look at Cape Cod as a real marketplace, look at the middle, look at the town of Barnstable, you're going to see water on the south side and the north side. And what that means is that there are beautiful waterfront properties that sell for multi-millions of dollars. And so what that has the effect on doing is it has the effect of really raising the average price. This is why I like the middle number, especially for areas like mine. Now, in a real Midwest town where I coach a lot of people, there's not that big variance. You're not going to find some extraordinarily amazing bunch of properties because they don't have waterfront per se. They might have lakefront, sure, and that might skew the average up a little too. But I like the middle number for the purpose of really organizing financial goals. But it's also okay to be cognizant of the mean, or the average, okay? So back to math terms, median means middle number. So if I have 1,000 transactions, by the way, there's your little pro tip. You're looking to do business in an area that's got about 1,000 sales plus or minus, okay? That's big enough, and it's not too small, and it's not too big where you're watered down. So let's say we have 1,000 sales. We're looking for the sale that took place right in the middle. So you line up all those thousands. What is the number that's right in the middle? What's that middle number? And so now we have this middle number. Now remember, in your distribution curve of data points, typically around that middle number, there's going to be a lot of sales, a little bit less, a little bit more. You have this nice big bubble in a distribution curve typically. And I'm going to assume for all you statisticians that are going to fact check me on what I'm saying, I'm not trying to be perfect here. I'm just simply saying in the middle, there's a lot of sales. Okay. A little bit below, a little bit above. And presuming your average is pretty close to your middle, it's definitely going to be a lot right around that number. So there's a lot of data points there. So pick it. And so for the sake of argument, in my case, I chose 400,000 because in my real marketplace on Cape Cod, I mean, if I did Boston, your head would spin, and I don't want to start talking about ultra expensive luxury cities. I want to try to get somewhere. It's certainly north and more expensive of the average across the United States, but it's a real thing for me. So if I'm sitting with one of my agents, I say, I don't care if you're brand new, you're going to shoot for a gross commission goal of 100, and you're going to look to the middle number, and we're going to use 400 in this case. Okay. And so we have two good data points to begin with, really grounded. Really, these are good. These are real. By the way, $100,000 on my watch, gross commission, before splits, before expenses. That's what I'm talking about. You're a business owner. You need top line first. Hear that. Don't start monkeying around with splits. I can't believe how many top producers I've coached that when I'm trying to say, well, let me see your operation, they've already lopped off what they've paid the brokerage, which is not right. Okay, so this is about the top line that you would go out, you would get a sale, and the check would come back written to the brokerage. And if you own your own, that's an easy one, right? But it's written to the brokerage. It's a gross commission goal. We have plenty of time, folks, to deal with the complications of expenses and managing them. Plenty. But we got to get somewhere with gross commission first. So we have a gross commission of 100. We have a middle price of 400, meaning there were as many sales to the north of 400 as there were to the south. Step number 3. Here's the squishy one that we all freak out about because of antitrust. You need to determine for the model your average commission rate target. Your average commission rate target. So for me, what I did was I looked at a whole year's worth of real sales, and we determined what was the blended average rate we were able to achieve. Now, again, to try to be goofy compliant with all this nonsense, I'm not trying to fix commissions. I'm telling you about my real business and what I was able to achieve, which has plenty to do with me negotiating my commissions with sellers. It has everything to do with me accepting the offer of compensation through MLS. And by the time a year is gone, I simply take a look at what was the rate. A lot of you, it's strange too, by the way, when you start talking about millions of dollars sold and you never mention what rate you got on those millions of dollars sold, right? I mean, so you take all of the hundreds of thousands of dollars you sold and you have the total of commissions, that's your rate. Got it? So all of the commissions, gross commission you received by hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, that's a mathematical equation that gives you a rate, right? So when you hear 2.5 apples, 3 apples, 3.5 apples, 4 apples, all these apples, and I have to use the word apples instead of, commission, I'm just saying that's a real rate. You need a real number. Now, if you're a rookie, what do? You get some guidance from the managing broker as to what you could put in there. Now, again, because commissions vary across the country and from area to area, there is no fixed number. Do your best to simply go into MLS and make a guesstimate based on what you see being offered in your target market area to the buy side, because you can make a good guesstimate that that's being split evenly. And I think now most MLSs make you disclose if it's a variable commission, meaning on the other side's getting more, whatever. I'm getting down a rabbit hole, so I'll stop, okay? In my model here for you today, I have used 2 3/4 apples. Okay, also known as 2.75% for modeling purposes only, not for fixing commissions. And it turned out to be pretty darn close to the number that I had blended in my business for one of the years I used as a sample. So my third step, let me go back and reiterate these. 1, I have a gross commission goal in this model of $100,000. I have a median price in my target market area of $400,000. That's the real middle number. It's about $390 to $410. So I split the difference. I mean that over a couple of years, by the way. Get the real number. Don't make it up. Get the real number. Don't guesstimate. I can't believe how many of you guesstimate. And I'm talking to you top producers. So now I've got 2 3/4 apples for a commission rate. Step number 4. We are going to do the simplest calculation of the average commission, the gross commission target. Let me repeat that. We are going to calculate your average commission target. So we figured out by backing into a rate, by looking or getting guidance or having a real number, whatever, we came up with a rate for our model. And again, models have some flexibility, but we need it written. We need it memorialized. That's the key exercise here today. So now that we have that, the next thing that we're going to do is calculate what we could expect for that average commission. And in our model, what I did was I took the $400,000 and I multiplied it times 0.0275, moved that decimal point over a couple points, right? A couple movements to the left, and I got 0.0275, and I end up with $11,000 as an expected average commission target. That's based off of that middle number and my guesstimate rate. You tracking, right? I know it's a little confusing because I said middle and median and then average. I'm just averaging what I would be shooting for. Yes, it's based on a middle number, but I'm good. I got $11,000 target. Okay. Now, this is where it gets real easy. The simplest math is to take that 11,000 and divide it up into what? Okay. See, we want to now calculate beyond the average commission target. We want to calculate the number of transactions we will need to get to the 100,000. You ready for the drum roll here? It's 9.09. That's the answer I get when I take the 100,000 GCI and I divide it by that average commission of 11,000. I get 9.09. Lop that off. I need to do 9 transactions over 365 days, 52 weeks, only 9 transactions to gross, in this example, $100,000. So in my marketplace, for any real estate agent, with or without me, that's how you get to gross of $100,000. And if I just go back and I look at the National Association of Realtors, I'm pretty sure I just spoke to most of you. Because go look at what NAR will give us for some sort of an average gross commission income for the year for an agent pre-split. It ain't 100. It's a lot less. So what if you just lopped this off and said, well, let's start with a chunk of 50. Okay, great. All I have to do is go down the math and, cut it in half, basically. To get to 50, I'd have to do about 4.5 transactions. Voila. There I am, a little bit north of the national average. I mean, come on, folks. If you can't do this kind of a formulaic approach to goal setting, then maybe you should be definitely working for somebody else and they tell you exactly when to be there, exactly what to do, and they wipe the drool off your chin and you go home with a check. Come on. I mean, you got to do some work here. But if you do this simple 5-step process, now you have it as this unbelievable tool. And now here's a little bonus section here that I'll go into and then I'll wrap. Now, what we've done at a higher level with a lot of our mastermind members who are trying to do much more than that, they're trying to do hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars, right? As they grow their teams, their companies, etc. So now what you do is you say every time you do a transaction, you measure it against the model to see the variance. Did you do better than the $11,000 on that transaction? Did you do less? Because if you do less and you're doing it regularly, you have to do more transactions to get to the financial goal. If you're doing really well and mixing in even a luxury sale once in a while, right, you had to do less. So if the $11,000 is the goal target based on getting to 100 at 9 transactions, and you end up selling something at $200,000, which is half the price we assumed in this model, well, you're going to have to do more transactions. But if you do an $800,000 transaction once a year, oh, that's great. That's the equivalent of 2 transactions in one. So now you have to do less. See what I'm saying? It's just fun math to play with too. And when you come to ask me about, well, what do I do with my time? You pursue this. That's what you do. I and many other people have a lot of information about what you could do to achieve this, yes, but this is yours. This is the thing, and you will find the resources and you will be more resourceful and you will be more disciplined against this because ain't nobody coming but you to deal with that. You will either go and do the work and find the resources to get your goal or you won't. See, that's what's cool about it. Puts you in a little box with yourself looking in the mirror saying, that's what I wanted. How am I doing? So let me summarize this, okay? 5 simple steps to a real attainable financial goal starts with step 1. Put down a written gross commission goal, not pre-expenses with your broker or your own expenses, a gross commission goal. Step 2, discover the real median or middle price in your target market. Write that down as step number 2. Step number 3, determine your average commission rate. Do the best you can. Get some help if you're new. And if you're not new, go back and calculate really what's happened over the last couple of years and get a real average rate that you can expect for your model. Step number 4, calculate your average commission target. You're going to have, based on that middle number and that rate, the ability to multiply those two together and get an average commission target. And then divide that number, that commission, into the gross goal, and you have the number of transactions. And you're off to the races. All right, so let me summarize it. When your financial goals are simple and clear, the resources you'll need to succeed will also be simple and clear. All right, remember, you can take immediate action to get started in a direction like this to be more strategic about the whole business by getting a copy of our free simple business plan, which is really just a walkthrough of an infographic over at freeagentgift.com. That's goal-setting stuff that you don't have to write anything. You print it out, put it up on the wall. I made it for you. Also, please don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever else you listen. We try to keep up with all the players and put them up there too, so that you don't miss out on any insights each time we upload. We also broadcast our live sales training calls on Facebook and YouTube every Friday at 1 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time. So if you just turn on those page and channel notifications, and please subscribe, especially to YouTube. Go over there and subscribe. I'm going to be doing a lot more live coaching and training in addition to the podcast. So go over to YouTube and subscribe to the Realty Classroom, and you're going to get some bonus material over there as well. All right? We'd also appreciate if you would share our content. Let other people know it's out there. I know a lot of people need some help, and I'm trying to simplify it and clarify it for everybody. Rookies, and I know you top producers. I know. Come on, check the ego at the door. Come see me. Come see me on this podcast. Come see me on YouTube. Ask me some questions. I will help you. It's okay to ask for help. All right? Hey, remember, thanks for listening. But nobody's coming for you. Nobody is coming for you. So go get to work on your own business, and I will see you in the next episode or over on YouTube.